I just wanted to give you a brief history about this feast day of Corpus Christi. You are hearing Corpus Christi, Corpus Christi. What is this thing, Corpus Christi? So the solemnity of Corpus Christi began sometime in the 13th century, 1,300 years after Jesus had left. And it was instituted by Pope Urban IV in the year 1264, of 1264, that is the year. And in that year, the Eucharist was elevated in such a way that even we began different devotions like adoration. Now, how did it begin? This story brings together about 4 different people. And one of them is a sister who is Saint Juliana of Liège in Belgium. And also there is a priest called Peter from Germany. And then there is one Jacques, who was a monk who became Pope Urban. Now, how does the story come up? Let me tell you. So there was sister, or this lady called Juliana, who had visions, and in her visions she saw the moon, the full moon, but with a dark spot, from which she took it that there was many feasts in the church, but there was no feast that is dedicated to the Eucharist. And when she heard of this, she went to share with her spiritual director, who was by then that monk who became Pope. You will hear him. So then there was another story of another priest. He was a monk coming from Germany, and he was having doubts about his faith, doubts about the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. So he decided to make a pilgrimage to Rome. Some sources have it that even he was on his way to tender in his resignation, to say, I am done. I don't understand what I'm doing. So on his way, he stopped in a village called Bolsena in Italy. And as he stopped, he passed through that village. The people begged him, like they begged Jesus, Domini manet nobiscum, stay with us. We have not had Mass here in the longest time. Please stay with us, celebrate Mass for us, which he did. And while he was celebrating Mass, as he was holding the host, blood was coming out of the host. It became real flesh. And the wine became real blood. And he was panicking. He called the people, they came and saw, and that's where the Mass ended. So he went to meet the Pope. So as he went to meet the Pope, this was now Pope Urban IV. And this Pope was also the spiritual director of Sister Julian, who had already told him, we don't have a feast day dedicated to the Eucharist. So when the Pope heard of this, he asked that it should be brought to him. So they brought this. And now we have, if you go to your Google and you go in, there is a website that was designed by, is now a saint, Saint Carlos Acutis. And all these Eucharistic miracles have been put down. And the one we are looking at is especially the one in Lanciano, which is very, very interesting. Now, what happened is that this blood became coagulated, and it is broken into 5 pieces. Now, in 1970, there were tests on that, on this flesh and this blood, and they realized it was still alive. Imagine, since 750, now in 1970, they test, and it looks like this tissue was just removed from a living person. And it was testing the blood group AB. But it also showed that this flesh was from the left ventricle of a human heart. Now, you see how strange this is. And when they measured the blood, they realized, and imagine these people who were doing these tests were not Christians, so they just gave the scientists randomly, and they were doing the tests not knowing what are they testing. And these are their findings. What was again so challenging is that they found out that the 5 pieces of the coagulated blood, even if they were unequal, they were not equal in size, but they weighed the same. The big one and the small one were all the same weight. So Jesus is present in every piece of the Eucharist in the same fullness. Even the smallest bit has the same. That is why when they say, when you receive with your hands, watch what remains full. It is as much as you might have dropped the whole host. So watch if you've left anything. Take it away. Because that is Jesus fully present. Now, this is what happened. This miracle, by then, it was brought to the Pope, and this Pope was also the Archdeacon in Liège and was Julian's spiritual director. And then he became Pope Urban IV. Having heard of the miracle, he ordered that corpus should be brought to him. And after he saw, he declared with a bull, a declaration in 1264, and issued it. It's called the Transiturus de Hoc Mundo, instituting the Corpus Christi as a holy day for the entire church, to become the very first universally mandated feast in the Catholic Church, to be created by a papal decree. But before, it was only celebrated in Liège, in Belgium. And that's where all these traditions came in from. But also in Paris, in France, the Archbishop was so impressed in this year, because Mass used to be celebrated in sotto voce, in quiet voice. Only the altar servers knew what was happening at the altar. So whenever they saw the priest taking the bread, say, take this, all of it. Then they would ring the bell. Get in, to tell the people he is now consecrating. So the Archbishop in this year decided that all priests in this diocese, after consecrating each species, must elevate the body and the blood so that people can adore. That's where the adoration began. And then people felt that those few minutes are not enough. And then adoration of Holy Hour also began, because they were taking it from that time when Jesus was in Gethsemane and told his disciples, can't you wait even 1 hour with me? Even 1 hour with me. And that's how the devotion of adoration started. And every year after the Trinity Sunday, we have this feast day where we adore Jesus as a parish community, and even we take this Jesus out to the streets. Of course, it didn't begin with Sunday, it began with Thursday. Why? Because on Thursdays Holy Thursdays when the Eucharist was instituted. So in some places they still celebrate Corpus Christi on a Thursday. But because the bishops all over the world realized our Christians go to work, let us give them an opportunity to adore Jesus without being in a rush. So they pushed it to the Sunday after Trinity. But literally, traditionally, it was the Thursday after Trinity Sunday. So that is a brief history of this feast day of the Eucharist. And so from here, we are going to first